Hello and welcome to MacFormat's weekly Apple Extravaganza. I am Chris Finn.
I'm Matt Bolton.
And on this episode we talk about a big number,
whether free services will ruin the quality of those services,
and a competitor to this piece of junk, the Apple TV. Who needs that? We start though, of course, with news from the world of Apple. Okay, 5 minutes then. We start with news from the world of Apple, and it is reported, it is estimated this week, that this week Apple sold its 500 millionth iPhone. 500 million is a big number.
That's a lot of iPhones.
Such a big number that it's quite difficult to visualise, but not with the help of MacFormat's weekly Apple Extravaganza.
Right.
I told Matt I'd prepared a prop for this week's show, and here it is. So, what we have here, Mr. Cameraman, if you'd like to take a close look. What we have here is a bottle full of sand. Now, Matthew, would you like to try and guess how many grains of sand there are in that bottle?
Are you going to tell me it's somewhere in the order of 500 million?
What do you think?
I think there's probably quite a large margin for error for you
There
to
is.
be off here.
Well, you see, the thing is, it's funny because I did a sort of back of the fag packet calculation, by which I mean I used Wolfram Alpha.
Yeah.
Which is still quite back of the fag packet.
The world's best fag packet.
Yeah. So that's a good tagline from Wolfram Alpha. We'll suggest that to Mr. Wolfram. Stephen. Hey, Steve. So there are assumptions made about packing density.
Uniformity,
that sort of stuff. But like for the sake
I can see a big one there. That's obviously putting you off.
For the sake of my analogy, take a rough guess. Do you have any idea, orders of magnitude, how many grains of sand you think might be in that?
Only that 500 million would make sense because of the theme.
So it's not.
Okay.
There, according to Wolfram Alpha, in a litre of sand, which is what we have here, it's about 3.3 million grains of sand. Which means that...
So this isn't that useful a prop?
But it is, because in order to represent 500 million, you would have 150 of these bottles. And from 150 of these bottles, each grain of sand inside that would represent an iPhone sold. Which, to me, does make it somewhat clearer. That is a big fuck-off number.
You know what would be really impressive is if you could tell me how many iPhone screens you could make from each of these
That's
bottles
true.
of sand.
It is in silicate, isn't it? So you could, in theory, do that. But what that means, basically, is that since the iPhone's launch, 2007, I won't say in the summer, it has sold essentially one iPhone every 2 seconds. So, something,
stop clicking your fingers.
akin to that. And that's iPhones being sold, which is just insane to me. Android has sold more. We got a figure that there's about 1 billion Android devices in total activated.
Which have been activated or are currently activated.
Have been
which,
activated.
Which, of course, is also the thing for the iPhones.
Exactly. So this 500 million figure is just for iPhones. That billion figure is for all Android devices. So it's a bit of an apples and oranges thing. But I think it's a safe assumption that a significant, if not overwhelming, majority of that billion will be phones, will be handsets. And by a billion we're talking a stupid newfangled billion, so that's 1,000 million, so it's double the number of iPhones.
Yes. Which
does put it in perspective, I think, as well as my expensively produced prop here. It puts it in perspective about how many iPhones Apple has sold.
Yes, it's a lot of sand.
Can you remember life before the iPhone? Can you remember where you were when the iPhone news hit?
Not
what
when
did you
the
think
news
of it?
hit. I remember when it was released, I was working at an Apple Premium reseller and we weren't allowed to stock it.
Yes, APRs weren't allowed it.
But our boss went to America to get one because it launched there 4 or 5 months before here. Yeah. So he went to get one, and I mean it was brilliant. It was so obviously brilliant. Yeah. But the price it was, and the fact that it didn't do a bunch of stuff that my Sony Ericsson, I think I had at the time,
K800i, that was a good phone, man.
That's not what I had.
So when did you?
But I bought an iPod Touch. Like I was kind of like, okay, I will get an iPod version of this. Yeah. This is clearly fantastic, and I want one.
What was the first iPhone you bought?
The 3GS,
which was the point at which it got pretty good.
Yeah,
you had an app store by that point. Speed was good. You had obviously 3G.
The iPod Touch was what sold me on the iPhone in the end, because all old phones were crap in some way or another, and I was getting so annoyed with bad phone after bad phone. Although I didn't realise how annoyed I was until I got the iPod Touch and sort of went, oh, this is brilliant.
This is how it should be.
The iPod Touch effectively sold me on the iPhone by just getting me used to using that and kind of going, well, this is a better way.
But it's strange, isn't it, to think of life before the iPhone. You had a proliferation of different form factors and input mechanisms and everything, and now it's just black rectangles. Like going around Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, it's just black rectangle, black rectangle, black rectangle. Everything feels the same to me, especially if you're talking in the Android world. Which
ties in nicely to the topic I'm going to bring up now in World of Tech. And that topic is homogeneity. Particularly, well, not in sand, but just Twitter.
Yes.
This week has rolled out photo tagging to its service, which is annoying for one thing because you have to opt out rather than opt in, but it's not specifically privacy I want to talk about, although that we can talk about that. We can talk about anything you like, Chris. But is the need for user numbers and the desire to do everything, where Facebook is adding Twitter elements and Twitter is adding Facebook elements, because free services just need all the users and they want to steal them from each other if need be. They will do anything to make sure that you don't have one reason to choose another. Do free services drive us towards homogeneity?
Wow, man! I feel like this shouldn't be water. I feel like this should be a good scotch. It's a fair point because, as you say, the services like these, social services especially, which are predicated on the network effect, they need scale in order to be able to monetize properly. Because the monetization, what's called the ARPU, the average revenue per user, is vanishingly small. So you need to have lots and lots of users to do that. And you're right that Twitter especially is a really interesting service, isn't it? Because it started off essentially as an SMS service. And even when it launched on the web, it was incredibly cut down, incredibly simple. It was just these boxes for 140 characters, and it was the user base that added the concept of @replies and hashtags and DMs. All this sort of stuff was just sort of built on organically by the users. It's a really nice thing. But now, as you say, it does seem to be adding a layer of cruft and UI and conceptual stuff on top that seems to be taking away the purity of the service.
And the problem is the need to make money. It was always free and it had a USP. In fact, it just was a USP. It was one simple thing. And as it grew fairly elegantly, partly thanks to clients integrating things like @replies and etc. etc. But as soon as it kind of went, well, we can't be free anymore, we've got to start making money, it's just big grey mass of we must include things like Facebook because Facebook is popular, and Facebook going, well, people like hashtags, don't they?
And then Facebook did the same thing. Facebook added hashtags to its service as well. So are we actually getting any difference in the services between them?
Exactly. Does the need for them all to make money, it's starting to feel kind of frustrating that, I mean, I don't pay for a social network service, so I'm just as bad as...
I do. I pay for app.net, which is which kind of the cognoscenti, the technorati, the people the geeks will criticise me for saying this, but it feels like a Twitter clone. And the reason that those people would criticise me for that is because it's so much more than that. It is a platform on which to build a whole raft of different services.
But you only use Alpha.
But I use clients, but I essentially use alpha.app.net, which is essentially a Twitter clone. But it's up for renewal right now after that first year. And I after a lot of soul searching, it was a surprisingly difficult decision. I know a lot of people have been going through the same thing as well, because I don't get massive amounts of value out of it. So I am renewing my subscription, and part of that is because I believe that what they're doing is a good thing. And I believe that in that classic line, unless you want to be the product, you should be paying, because if you don't pay, then you are the product, which maybe needs to be unpacked a little bit as a phrase. Do you want to explain that slightly more?
Because the free services are based on selling your eyeballs and your information to advertisers. Yeah. Yes.
Which is tricky. But so I am paying for app.net. I will continue to pay for it another year. In a year's time, I don't know. It depends on the community of people who are there. And at the moment, it's not an especially compelling community of people. Well, that's partly my fault for not having sought more people.
Yeah. And that's...
But is this homogeneity a problem? Is it necessarily a bad thing?
It's
Is it just boring?
I mean, it stifles any other cool things that could come if we're all just aiming to be one big somewhere between Facebook and Twitter. What other cool things that could happen? I mean, there's open to disruption from the outside. That'll probably be with another free service that has to start making money at some point. Twitter and Facebook features and etc. etc.
Yeah. I mean, you don't use Facebook. You're very much a Twitter guy. I occasionally drop into Facebook. And it's interesting to see what you use different services for. So I use Twitter and Facebook and Path and App.net for different things. And even though some of the features are the same, there are different use cases. Anyway, that's enough for that. And now we're going to have to go and carry a monitor from over there. So join us again instantly, essentially, due to the magic of editing.
Okay, so the bit of kit we've got to talk about this week is not the Apple TV. In fact, you can't see it because it's around the other side of this monitor, but it is Google's Chromecast, which is sort of a cross-platform competitor to the Apple TV-ish.
Can I have a look behind the television cameraman? Around here, this way. There we go. And you'll see the Chromecast. This tiny little dongle stuck in the back of the display, which just plugs straight into the HDMI port.
Yeah, plugs straight in. Also needs power from a USB cable. Now your TV can provide that if it's got a USB port, or it comes with a mains plug.
Lovely.
And the point is that you send things to it wirelessly. Unlike the Apple TV, it doesn't have its own menu system or remote at all. It is just a streaming receiver. So you send stuff from compatible apps on your Android device or your iOS device, or some stuff on the Mac or PC. So in this case, we are going to watch ourselves from last week.
Now, apologies for the slight delay in this. We're running, for various technical reasons, over 3G and hotspots and stuff, so it's a bit slow. But it will work.
It will work. It may be fuzzy, but it is happening. Although, funnily enough, YouTube is one of the, given that it's made by Google, is one of the slower things to load. But so
make us be quiet.
Oh, did I? I think you have to do that.
No,
I've done it. There we go. Good job, me. So I really like it.
Yeah.
It's £30.
Yeah. Which is why anyone would really like it.
Astonishingly good.
So essentially, it turns any TV into a smart TV.
Basically,
is the idea.
But you need app support to do it. Yeah. And at the moment, the limiting thing is that in the UK, you can only really use iPlayer on Android, Netflix on anything, and YouTube.
Yeah.
Which is not ideal.
It's not in order to stream stuff. Although there is a Google Chromecast app, which allows you to, for example, chuck photos.
No, the Chromecast app doesn't.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
You have to have a dedicated app for doing... the Chromecast app is just for setting up Chromecast. It makes it super easy, which is fine.
So unlike with... Because with the Apple TV, for example, which is this little puck powered... It's an iOS powered device. The way that works, basically with media, is that with some very obvious caveats and exceptions, anything that uses the standard Apple movie playback framework can sling stuff to the Apple TV. And even if you can't do that, in most cases you could switch on mirroring and just show everything that's on your iOS device on the TV connected to the Apple TV.
Yes.
But the Apple TV is £99.
Yeah, so this has to have support for the Chromecast built into the...
I didn't set the timer. Let's imagine we've been talking for 2 minutes. Professionals, us.
Yes, so a bit like AirPlay, when you're in a compatible app and a Chromecast is detected on the network, you get a little symbol, which looks a little bit like the AirPlay symbol, and you just tap it and choose whether you want to play this video on Chromecast, play it on the device, stuff like that, and then the device becomes effectively a remote control. And every app I've tried is multitasking capable. So you start it playing and then close the app and go off and do whatever you want on your phone otherwise. The limited support is the biggest problem. In America, it's much better supported. There's 23 apps, and that includes Hulu,
I'd imagine,
and HBO Go and stuff like that. Yeah. Over here, we are super limited. Yeah. But it was really easy to set up. Yeah. It worked very well whenever I played around with it, and I really like it.
So talk about the Mac and PC stuff.
That's weird.
Yeah.
From Chrome, you can mirror a tab, a single browser tab, over to your TV. And then again, with multitasking, you can keep going off and doing other things, and that tab will stay static. So it's sort of useful for putting a Twitter feed.
Why couldn't I use that to watch BBC iPlayer on my Mac or PC and stream that to you?
In theory, you could.
Yeah.
In practice, whenever I tried it, it slowed to... The stream became completely unstable, and it would constantly stop and stutter and kind of
Dropping
flooding
frames.
off. Yeah, or not even just as simple as kind of the occasional drop frame, properly just stopping for a couple of seconds and then picking back up. That was on my network.
Which
someone
is
else
an
I know
N
who
network.
it's an
running
AC network, in fact.
Is it an AC
yes,
network?
I don't have any
But
AC
there's no AC
devices,
devices on it.
But it is an N network. It's
I'm presuming this
it's
is
a very, very busy N network.
I'm presuming this is an N device.
I presume so.
Kind of must be, mustn't it?
Yeah.
Who would be putting G into a device
But
these days?
I know someone else who tried one, and he said the mirroring and other stuff was perfect when he tried it. So possibly on a less busy network, I don't know. But
So what is the use case for it? Because it sounds to me like the sort of thing that would be really useful in business environments, to be able to just like whack into a projector that's on the ceiling, good for education environments.
yes and no, because all the mirroring from a computer is browser based. It really depends on if what you want to mirror can come from a browser.
Yeah.
I used it with the iWork version of iCloud and Keynote in Chrome, and that worked fine.
Yeah.
I could do a presentation that way. But if you have something that isn't in the browser that you want to present from, that's not so useful.
And again, that's where the Apple TV is ahead, because with Apple TV and with later Macs running 10.8 and later, you can mirror the entire screen, so it doesn't matter at all what you're showing.
Yes.
It will go in.
But obviously, if what you've got is a cross-platform setup, if you've got Android devices and PCs and everything, this is more possibilities.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't forget to let us know in the comments. Partly we'd love some feedback on the show now that we've done 5 whole weeks worth. But also, does the iPhone have a future past its 500 millionth sale?
Do you like sand?
Do you like sand? You've put me right off. Social networks, would you pay for a different one, a better one, or will free always win out in something that's so frivolous and throwaway? And would you buy a Chromecast instead of an Apple TV? Is there room for both? Do we need either in the world of smart TVs? Let us know.
Indeed. Don't forget, you can of course subscribe to the MacFormat YouTube channel at youtube.com/MacFormatUK, so that you can watch all these shows and more stuff that we do. You can catch up on previous episodes of the show by clicking on this button round about here. And of course, you should definitely try the MacFormat magazine. You can try it completely free inside our interactive app edition, and you can get that for your iPad at macformat.com/iPad. That's it for this week, and we shall see you next week.
Bye.